Hello and welcome to this week's Think Tank Thursday. I'm Genevieve Sullivan and I'm thrilled to be here with you this week. Thank you so much for coming. Before we begin, we want to thank our Think Tank sponsors. We appreciate their support, and it's because of them that we're able to offer you a new episode each week of Think Tank Thursday. Trainertainment likes to take a break from doing and spend some time thinking on Thursdays. And today we are here with Drew Kelley. Drew Kelley is the Senior Program Director at YMCA Camp Bernie in New Jersey and is here today to talk with us about how camping is really connected to family and a part of family entertainment. It's an area that we don't always get a chance to think about and talk about, and so really excited today to hear from Drew. So let's jump in and see how we can grow today. Drew, thank you so much for being here today with us. I'm full disclosure to everyone watching. So Drew and I actually worked at an overnight YMCA camp together for a number of years, and he's the one who introduced me to the connection between family entertainment and camping, the camping movement. And so excited to have him here today to talk to you all about it and for us to hear a little bit more. So before we get started, Drew, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at YMCA Camp Bernie?
Yeah, of course. You guys already know my name, but I'll introduce myself again. I am Drew Kelley, and as Genevieve said, I'm the Senior Program Director here at YMCA Camp Bernie. Camp Bernie is a year-round outdoor center and summer camp, so we offer your traditional sleepaway camp. We also offer day camp for youth, but then we engage full families in family camp as well as schools and other rental groups in our fall and spring season to host school field trips or groups and retreats, small corporate conferences, things like that. So we really work hard to make sure that this facility that we have, this camp, can take on many forms and serve many people with, whatever.
Whatever they're looking for, right? Right.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of different people, right? When we think of, or when people think of overnight camp, right? We think of the traditional summer sleepaway, going away with your friends, canoeing, swimming, whatever
Well,
other activities, arts and crafts. I need to make sure to mention arts and crafts, but you mentioned a lot of other things, conferences, family camps. And I think that's the area where we've talked a number of times before this about family entertainment. So how do you see the connection between like a traditional arcade, bowling alley, bowling center space, maybe an axe throwing space? How does that compare to camp, and how are they connected in family entertainment?
well, I think that when you really take that and you think of a brick and mortar location, right? That is something that we have. We've got a facility with offerings, just like a bowling alley has bowling lanes, just like an arcade has tons of machines and things to help with that. We also have a handful of offerings at a facility that can be used to develop your groups and team building, or to just engage children in positive youth development. And so we may not have a bowling alley, but we have a climbing tower, and we may not have arcade games. We've got a swimming pool, and we've got those things are, I think that the connection there, the overlap is bigger than a lot of times we realize from like what feels like two different industries. That's really one, right? Family and youth development.
Yeah, right. That we are, especially for a lot of those, right? We're trying to attract families into our spaces, right? Whatever the attraction may be. And for sometimes, right, I feel like for camping, the attraction can be the cabin itself, right? Or the campfire and s'mores, or, right, all of these little programmatic things versus, like you said, the right go-karting, right? Although there are plenty of camps that I've seen that have similar attractions, right? I did mention axe throwing. That was definitely a trend for a while. There are some camps that will have that and some family entertainment centers that will have that. when we're thinking about attracting like field trips, you mentioned field trips, mentioned getting families in the door. What are some ways that you recruit uh, schools to do field trips at your space?
I think that when it comes to schools, there's a bit of a different goal, right? The goal is going to be at least somewhat related to education. And so making sure that we are looking at what the New Jersey state requirements for curriculum are and how we can fill some of those gaps that maybe can't be seen in a classroom is huge, and outlining, this is what we bring that cannot be emulated otherwise. And then also just like the real facts about how positive time in the outdoors affects development and just general happiness of human beings. So not only is this going to be good for your kids, this is going to be good for your staff. And um, that's kind of how you can take that pivot from education and move it to our team building groups of corporate retreats, or we have a lot of like church groups and things like that that will come through. And so yeah, I think that just making sure that we can see that like this is a space that is very, for lack of a better word, like malleable to match your goals. And we can there are plenty of ways that we can do that, right? With a summer camp, we can meet a lot of different types of goals with this space, and we're very lucky to have a facility that can accommodate something like that.
What are some of your favorite corporate groups that you've worked with, like with team building or conferences, those types of events?
Um, I think that when it comes to a corporate group, it's always kind of fun because our staff here are trained to work with children primarily, right? Like we spend like 95% of our time working with kids. And so seeing how honestly easily that transitions to working with, you go from working with 9 to 10-year-olds in a team building setting to, 20 to 50-year-olds in a corporate team building setting, you don't actually change that much about what you're doing. Maybe you have to explain a little less in the front end and a little more in the back end as far as how that goes. But those things are like, those programs, like they serve any age if they're done well. And facilitation is really key in that. And so for us, having staff that can like facilitate all of these programs is very crucial. And I think that maybe that is a slight difference in like us and your traditional family entertainment centers, is that there the staff have to like worry about the operations less than facilitation, whereas like we have to make sure that we've got facilitators on site that can do these specific things. But also, the more I think about it, there's definitely versions of that in other FECs too, right? Like you've got specialists that host your lanes at an axe throwing place because obviously there's some safety and risk involved in that. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that actually that comes to my next question too. You talked about training your staff and facilitating. So there's a number of things that that I know are very similar. One is the age range of the typical employee at an overnight camp or day camp, and in family entertainment centers, we're really talking about kind of that 16 to 25 age range. Not that there aren't outliers and all of those, there are exceptions there, but a lot of times these are the first job of these people. And so it's a lot of work to train somebody in their first job. There's a lot of surprises as we're going through. So when we're talking about facilitating a group or hosting a group, I think a lot of our centers we'll talk a lot about party hosts, right? So a party host for a birthday party, that they are just going through this program a number of times on Saturday and Sunday and really bringing that experience, that good facilitated experience, to a group of 9-year-olds or 10-year-olds. Those are probably our closest. When you think about hiring in staff for those types of positions, those like high facilitation positions, or training them, what are some things that come to mind? What kind of staff are you looking for, and how do you teach them?
I think that the staff that we're looking for is someone who is, at least in their professional role, is not going to back down from the fact that they've got to speak up, right? When it comes to facilitating at our location, we, not only is it going through an activity, making sure that it's done effectively, making sure everyone has a fair turn at it, and mitigating the the timing of everything, but it's also a lot of like risk management. So just a combination of, we definitely are looking for people who are outgoing enough to, have like I can't think of another word better than outgoing, but to have like an outgoing conversation in the facilitation style to make sure that we can get this ball rolling and get whatever activity needs to be done, but also outgoing enough that they can like firmly hold our standards of safety. And I think that that combination of people, when you think about like risk management, a lot of times you may think that you want a bunch of like 30 to 50-year-old employees doing that, but um, in reality, once you take kind of responsibility for, you are teaching people how to have a job, you get to also teach them how to have a good job, right? And so giving them the skills that they need and preparing them with what is going to make them successful in this role includes, training them in those facilitation styles and making sure that they do feel confident to speak up. Because I think about, I was a 15-year-old soccer referee when I was that age, and how as a 15-year-old soccer referee, like I was the authority of a soccer field against coaches and parents that were way outside of my age. That's not different than when you're the facilitating instructor on like a high ropes or a climbing element, and you have to be the safety officer in that room. Like, you may be 22 and everyone around you is, professionals or parents of people in your group, but you're still like the final person on that. And so just making sure that that they feel comfortable and have the tools to hold those standards strong is important, and empowering them to feel not just able, but like comfortable and willing in having those conversations has been a big improvement. I think is like, we've been moving staff towards what we're calling hosts. So very similar to your party host, these would be like field trip hosts,
Mm.
um, to kind of go through those expectations ahead of time, so that whenever somebody has to repeat that or kind of hold firm on a policy or a best practice, that this isn't the first time that anyone's heard it, right? Like, we're preparing our participants and our staff to make those conversations easier.
That's great. That's great. I love the example of even being, I like that you said being the authority, that you were the authority on that field as a ref when you were 15, right? Even though, and that made me think too, the importance, right, of, right, how do we train them to have that? You're training them to have that authority and backing them up so that they have it. And what popped in my head too is this idea of how important uniforms are in that sort of scenario too. And that's another thing that I feel like camps and family entertainment centers can have in common, right? This idea that, right, when I am the person in charge of the climbing tower, what does that uniform look like to be in charge? Sometimes that can be a different color helmet, right? Or a
Mm-hmm.
different color harness or a name badge, or this idea that like you absolutely are the authority regardless of your age. If someone doesn't know how to put a harness on, right, your whole job is to teach them. When you are instructing them on some of these higher risk things, so you mentioned risk, right? So at camps, right, climbing, swimming, right? There's life jackets, there's lifeguards. We train people.
Target sports, you
Target,
said it
right?
with the axe throwing, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of safety things. And so what if you were to use the skills that you have in training and instructing your staff in those areas into let's say a less risk area like arts and crafts, or sweeping the dining hall, right? Just something with less risk. What are some things that you've learned living in that much risk that you would use for training staff in all areas?
Well, I think that whether or not you're mitigating the risk of a climber that's hooked, onto a belay system that you're supervising versus just having to hold firm on a policy, like the same skills go into both of those things, right? Like, you have to be authoritative in that. Um, and I think that the authority coming with, some customer service as well, that combination is really like that's a deadly combination. Those people are going to be able to do virtually anything you need for your center at that point, um, because they're going to do it with an amount of grace and with an amount of respect for the participants and for the guests, while also maintaining the boundaries that are necessary to run a successful operation here on site, right? And so that is one of the like I said, that's a deadly combination. That's an awesome staff member if you can get both of those things, because again, like you don't have to be dealing with the risk of somebody climbing a climbing tower for that authority and that like confidence and that empowerment to work in your favor. Because in the same way, if you're going to have to, and if these people are going to have to enforce policies on the floor of your establishment, they're going to need that same authority and customer service kind of driven piece. And then when you can add the third piece of like kind of predicting the customer experience, you can't get better than that. Those people are the people that you're going to want to work so hard at retaining and see what their opportunities for moving up are. If they can be authoritative and firm with your boundaries and policies, if they can go at that with a customer service mindset, and they can try to predict the needs of the people that you're serving and think of your space in that way, you're not going to get better than that. You said sweeping the dining hall. That is like a preemptive thing, right? That is you seeing, oh, what is a guest going to see when they come in here? How is this going to affect them? Let's make sure that this gets done. Those kinds of things. It's gold.
It is gold if you can get a staff member to do that without asking, right? Like without that they are just noticing. So I feel like as we're kind of getting into the back end here and wrapping up, I'd be remiss not to ask you your advice for our family entertainment centers. So oftentimes when we are working with FECs, especially around in like our sales coaching and working their sales staff, we will talk often about calling YMCAs to book field trips for day camps in the summer. As a YMCA day camp, and having worked, I know, at other ones, what advice would you give for a facility who wanted to book day camps to come to their FEC as a field trip?
One, obviously, in this industry, summer is busy for you. It's busy for me. We've got a lot going on. So summer may not be the easiest time, but I understand that that's when you're going to have the most need. So if you're predicting a busy summer because school's out and that's when families are going to be utilizing your space the most, get ahead of that. We're probably not going to be able to book a summer group in March or February. I'd say that now is the time that you should be having those conversations if you're going to try to get into a summer camp in the summer. However, if you've got the flexibility to be that late spring, early fall, that's when the seasons of bookings are aplenty in summer camps. And so if you have that kind of flexibility with your group, say you are you've got a collection of people that are going to try to come for a day for whatever reason, understanding the like operational calendar of the places that you're trying to book with and finding your spot in it. Also, in general, once you're in, right? So if you get a spot in a summer camp week to do a rental group, you will likely be able to hold that spot forever. And that's a precious spot. So you should definitely take that seriously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Drew. And we always have one final question for our Think Tank Thursday guests. And so this one is for you, our signature question. So what do you do on a consistent basis to grow others?
I think that's something really awesome about working in camping is that not only am I developing programs, not only are we, working on making sure that we can fill beds and hitting our own quotas, but also a part of what we have to do, like per our mission, is develop a positive camp community. And I think that really feeds into a lot of the successes that we see, is that we have built community somewhere else that is feeding into the success of something new, right? And so continuing to focus on developing all aspects of that camp community, if I was going to put those into like more like I went to business school, so more like business school terms, just like feeding your stakeholders, right? All of them, not just, not just the people that are paying money to utilize your space, but also the people that you pay money to make sure that that space is in tip shape. And um, everything in between, from partners and vendors to uh, your staff to your guests. I just think that if we always have that positive camp community, then that third aspect that I was talking about of like the customer, the guest facing relations being a priority, it becomes baked into what we're doing, and everyone has a better time when they come see us at YMCA Camp Verde.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Drew. Where can people find you to learn more about you or your business?
Nobody needs to find me in particular, but you can definitely check out what YMCA Camp Bernie's doing at campbernieymca.org. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. YMCA Camp Bernie on Facebook, at Camp Bernie on Instagram. You can see what we're doing there. And if you're ever in the area in New Jersey, you can email me, find my info on the website, and I'd love for you guys to check out what we got going on.
I guess you should all absolutely take Drew up on that and go take a tour of Camp Bernie if you find yourself in New Jersey. So thank you again, and thank you once more to our 2024 digital sponsors. If you have a think tank idea or want to be a guest or want to sponsor, please contact us at, you're going to contact Candy at Candy, C-A-N-D-I, at trainertainment.net. Be sure to check out where you can connect with us in real life. All of our upcoming events and appearances can be found at trainertainment.net under our events menu. Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Trainertainment's Think Tank Thursday. Remember, the journey to success is all about growth, and here at Trainertainment, we are committed to helping you and your company thrive. Visit trainertainment.net to learn more about how we can support your growth journey. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for extraordinary.